In this video, it's week 5 of Mission Improvement, which finds me once again trying to tame the beast that is WeatherTech. However, this time I've brought a human coach with me. But will it make a blind bit of difference? Let's take a look now from an older gamer's perspective. Week 5. Welcome again to WeatherTech. Week 5 was the best of races. It was the worst of races. It was the age of going off track. It was the age of being shoved off track. It was the epoch of missing the apex by a golden mile. It was the week of human coaching hope. Welcome to week 5 of Mission Improvement and my journey towards becoming a better sim racing driver. And apologies to Charles Dickens there, who is no doubt spinning in his grave. But yes, week 5 was a week of mixed results. The Excel sheet here showing my results for week 5 does make it look like I was having a tremendous week with some huge losses of -89 and -69 in 2 adjacent races and gains of just 50 or 60 here and there, and a lot of minus points on my safety rating as well. In fact, I lost safety rating on pretty much every single race. But I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think it's starting to point towards a good thing. Let me explain why. Last week, if you tuned into that particular episode, you would have seen me having some issues with the WeatherTech course, racing it with other cars in the production car challenge. In fact, I lost -165 iRating points in just 6 races in that series. And that was mostly to do with the problem of simply not being able to keep up with the faster drivers. I just didn't have the pace to compete at their level, which perplexed me because I had studied my Garage 61 telemetry. I had done the practice laps, and I'd also used Trophy AI, both with Mansell talking me round the track and the brake accelerator overlays, plus the brake beeping, fine-tuning my racecraft, or so I thought. I even turned on the driving line to make sure I was in the right place at the right time. None of that was really helping. So what to do?
I need a miracle.
The human coach. It was time to call in the cavalry in the shape of a human coach. This is Chad, a member of the Older Gamers Discord group, who has a lot of experience at sim racing. In fact, he has an A-class license in all iRacing disciplines and an iRating in most of around 3K, except Dirt Oval, where he is just under 2K. Chad volunteered to take me around the track at WeatherTech in a private session to look at my driving and see if he could better guide me in a live one-on-one situation. If you don't know, any iRacing event can be set up as a privately hosted server. It costs something ridiculous like 50 cents an hour or something like that, and is paid out of any iRacing credits you might have earned or added to your account. By clicking on the series you are interested in, it's then possible to select Create a Hosted Race from the More Ways to Race menu. This should then copy and paste the race weather and other settings into a session that you can set to private by adding a password. I then tend to use just the open practice for working with other people or just hanging out and doing some practice laps. There are lots of settings here, so take your time when setting this up, and don't forget to add a password if you want this session to be private. Otherwise, anyone on iRacing can join in. Once the server was set up, I joined Chad at WeatherTech in the MX-5, and after a couple of laps to warm the tyres, we started to run some laps with Chad following me, studying my line and giving me feedback and comments, trying to tell me where I was missing an apex by too much, when I was not positioning myself to take advantage of a corner. Lots of other stuff like that. Eventually, Chad took the lead and encouraged me to follow his line while talking me through the techniques he was using.
Second lap, warmer tires now. First 2 turns should stick a little better. Braking just before the 2, nice and hard, downshift. First right there to help rotation. Stay tight. All the way to the exit, look for the 2, brake at the 2, lift. Build throttle. Make sure you use all the exit. Third with a lift and rotate, and nailed that apex that time. We're going to set out wide, brake a little before the 2. Carrying third gear this time. Make sure we carry momentum all the way to the outside of the white. Looking for the 2 card, brake right at the crest. Turn, hammer the throttle. Chopped the red there, got away with it. Two quick ones, release, and full throttle. Third gear, lift about middle of that, and then aim for the inside. Car's a little loose, so we're going to end up using every bit of that exit. Down 2 quick shifts, look for the red, build the throttle, go wide if you need to.
You've got the fastest lap.
One of the biggest breakthroughs for me was the Andretti hairpin, which is right at the start of the course, and one where I could manage to hit the first apex, but would often miss the second by a clear mile. However, Chad's tips on this corner, holding the brake out on the first apex, then going down into first gear to create some rotation to hit the second apex, allowed me to hit both apexes with regular precision. When I tried this in a live race, this was often a place where I gained the most time on the lead cars. However, important though it is to know what to do and how to do it, we also talked through what happens when things go wrong and what can be done about that situation.
I was going to say, that's going to be ugly. Okay, so before we drive off, what do you think you made the mistake on that one?
I missed the top apex again.
You definitely did. Yep, That's exactly it.
Looks like you
And then I
can't.
tried.
You were carrying in your fast momentum into a suboptimal line on the right.
Yeah. And then when I'd missed that top apex, and then I kind of tried to carry on as normal and, and flatten that bend out. And of course, I was in completely the wrong place to do that. And that's where I dug into the ground and it took me out.
Yep. At that point, if you do miss that, the thing to do is you just have to quickly recognize that status quo will not work. And what you're going to have to do at that point is just ride the brake and essentially squid that or sling through there in more of a twisty way like you did previously. So if you miss that left, you just have to remember that the whole second half of that corner is quote unquote old way / suboptimal. So you just want to commit to that because there's no salvage in it if you miss it by that much.
Yeah, go back to the sort of plan B type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Be like, okay, I'm going to lose time on this corner. If there's somebody here, they'll probably get a run on me. But the important thing is to not wreck the car at that point. So you just want to get through it as cleanly as possible in that suboptimal way at that point.
We carried on like this for some time, with Chad generously giving up his day to help me figure out how to get the best out of the MX-5 at WeatherTech. But how did I actually do when I took all of this newfound knowledge to the track?
I have a bad feeling about this.
Week 5, race of the week. The proof of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating, so let's get straight into the race. So here we are at WeatherTech, the MX-5 Cup Series for rookies, with 12 cars on the grid, creating a strength of field of around 1,300. What's interesting here is none of the drivers in this split are actually rookies. Instead, we have 2 A-class drivers, 2 Bs, including me, 2 Cs, and 4 D-class drivers. So this is going to be an interesting race. I'm 5th on the grid, and if I maintain 5th to the checkered flag, I stand to gain a very lackluster estimated 26 iRacing points. I am hoping for more. And we have the green flag, and we're away all fairly cleanly. Number 8 is still occasionally blinking on the right there. He comes into center view with a white car coming very close to me as we come down to the Andretti hairpin Number 8 blinking in and out there to reward him for overtaking me. It's fairly close here. You see number 8 blinking in and out until he eventually takes himself off. So at least he's no longer a problem. And a couple of other cars get caught in the mess of that turning. And they're practically out of the race now. They're so far behind. I grab a bit of the red bumper on that corner to unsettle my car, but managed to keep it safe. On a previous race, that took me completely out, and I came in 12th. So I'm a little bit wary of those red bumpers on the corners, because I know that if you hit them slightly, it'll unsettle you, but if you hit it a lot, it can be the end of your race. And we're still on the first lap. Everybody's trying to warm up their tyres and not be too adventurous. Remember, we don't have any rookies in this race, so everybody's being reasonably clean, reasonably safe. It's experienced drivers, or semi-experienced like myself, who know that they shouldn't push the car too much in this opening lap. And we come through the corkscrew there cleanly. Everybody's through clean. And I am maintaining position 5. I dropped back a bit on the start there, where I typically do, but I've managed to get it back again, and I still have sight of the lead cars, which is good. Sometimes I feel that if I got a better position on the grid, I would be, for a start, ahead of the chaos that happens at the first corner, but also I would have more chance of keeping up with the lead driver. You can see him there, right off in the distance in the helicopter view, and he is screaming away from all the other cars. If I can't get past these cars in front of me, I stand no real chance to catch him up in the remaining laps of this race. And it is all really close at the moment. We've got this pack of 3 cars that I'm the rear of in 5. If I can get past Stephen and Malvi, maybe, I put myself in 3rd place, which would be really cool. I think Malvi in the white car was the car that came very close to me on the start. So I'm a little bit wary of him, because he may be driving on a single monitor, and that may mean he can't see his wing mirrors, and he doesn't look to his left or right. I'm only assuming there, but from the style of driving, that's what I feel is likely to be the case. And we're coming uphill now towards the corkscrew. We're all fairly close in, which is dangerous on this corner, because everybody likes to brake in different places, but we all get through cleanly, which really reminds me of something that one of my pet hates in iRacing is when I brake and somebody slams into the back of me and they just say, well, you braked too early, or you braked in the wrong place, or you did this, or you did that. I don't know about that excuse. I feel that's an aggressive driving style where you're not allowing for the driver in front to make any mistakes. And if you pile into the back of them, well, it's their fault for making a mistake. Of course, in the real world, you'd have 2 broken legs and a smashed up car with that sort of attitude fairly quickly. But in sim racing, you don't have to worry about that. So we're coming up on the Andretti hairpin now, and all 3 of us here in this middle pack are glued together. But unfortunately, number 3 spins off there. He just overcooked that corner slightly. And now it's just me and Stephen. We've jumped up a place. No, it hasn't registered it yet. I'm in 4th and Stephen is in 3rd. I want that 3rd from Stephen. If I can get past him, maybe I can push on towards 2nd. It seems unlikely. 2nd and 1st are screaming ahead of us now. And unless they make a desperate series of horrible mistakes, well, it's not going to happen. I'd sneak past Stephen on that corner there and tuck in front of him before we get to this corner where I lift and don't brake as we head uphill towards the corkscrew. Just about managed to get ahead of him there, but I can see him in my rear mirror and I know he's keen to get past me, and I know also that on a couple of these corners he's a lot quicker than me. This is going to be a nail biter. It's way too early in the race. It's only lap 3. We're coming up on the line for lap 4, but it's way too early in this race for me to comfortably assume that I can keep hold of 3rd place simply by racing my best race. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to have people coming back in from the pits. I'm going to have cars in front of me doing all sorts of stuff to put me off, and I am going to have myself also having the occasional lapse in concentration, missing my braking markers or whatever. You can see the back markers there coming in on the pit lane. If you look on the helicopter view, we've got 2 cars entering the course now, and they're coming onto the track right in front of the leaders, and that's just what the leaders didn't want. Was a couple of cars that are definitely going to be slower than them. They're going to be on cold tyres, and they have to find a way past them. But that's going to work for both me and Stephen now, because we can perhaps catch them up. Maybe. It's difficult to tell. If they can get past them fairly quickly, then who knows. But for the moment, I'm closing the gap on number 2, and that's great, because if I can close the gap on then and maintain my position, maintain my concentration, and number 2 makes a mistake, I can sneak past. I'm not sure I can catch number 2 without that mistake, because he is a faster, better driver than me. But you know, anything can happen on this particular course at WeatherTech. And here we are. This car in the front there gets nudged off by number 2. And the other slow car decides rather wisely just to get out of the way of everybody and take an off track. Now here we go. Look, we're very close. Stephen's sniffing my back bumper. He really wants to get past me. I had to slow down for all of that mess that was going on in front of me, and I've allowed second place to get a little bit further ahead of me. It looks close on this corner, but 2 is through very quickly, and Stephen comes up the outside. He's overtaken me. He's got a nose in front of me, but I'm kind of drafting on the side of him and hoping that I can maintain this line all the way to the Andretti corner. Who's going to take that inside line? I think I'm going to brake too late here, but I'm coming in on that corner. I'm hugging the apex, but I'm going too fast. I'm panicking slightly to try and get past Stephen there. It wasn't going to happen for me. I should have perhaps just tucked in behind him and see if I could get some drafting, but I didn't. I made a mistake on that Andretti corner, and I've let Stephen get a much better lead on me. He's now chasing number 2, and it looks like he will be in competition for number 2, not me, which is horrible news for me. And we're coming around this corner now, and I think I did that slightly better than Stephen. I'm coming up fast on him. I know that he doesn't take this next corner as well as I do, so I'm going to gain some room there as well. But I went wide, took an off track there. I've been taking a lot of off tracks this week, but as I said earlier in this video, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'll explain why later. Now, I'm on the tail. We're into the corkscrew. This is not a place where you can perform an overtake. I've seen people perform overtakes here. It doesn't end well for one or the other cars. We're coming down now onto this bend. This is a fast bend. You let the car go wide if you can. Not too wide. If you hit that gravel, it will spin you out. You will end up in the barrier. And this one, you have to be careful when you come round that you don't get on the acceleration too quickly. Otherwise, the front wheels will skid out from underneath you and you'll do a front wheel slide. And that's very disappointing. You end up in the barrier. Your race is over. So I'm chasing Stephen now. We're coming down to the Andretti corner again. And what's going to happen this time? Oh, I'm sneaking in. I've got the apex well there. Second apex, I've nailed it, but so did he. So we're coming out of that neck and neck again. I'm on his bumper. He must be sweating. He's seeing me dancing about in his mirrors. That's horrible. I've had that. I really hate that when you're driving along and you're having to keep an eye on the driver behind you. It depends if you trust that driver or not. If you know it's a driver that just keeps giving you 0x after 0x, where he just keeps touching your bumper, he's just basically trying to intimidate you to get out of his way, which again is not an aggressive style of driving that I think is particularly admirable, shall we say. And we're coming around that corner, and I again perform better than that Stephen, and I managed to sneak up the outside. But as I said, we're coming into the corkscrew. It's not a great place to overtake, but I managed to just sneak past him as we come into the corkscrew. He's still on me, so it's not over yet. He could overtake me on any of these corners, and he's going for it here, but I've managed to hold my line as we come down to this very fast corner with him right on my bumper. It's just terribly exciting. It's nail biting for me. I just was watching this thinking to myself, I cannot make a mistake here. The first mistake I make, Stephen is going to capitalise on, and he's going to get past me. We're on lap 6 now. There's only 3 laps left in this race. If I make a mistake now, it's all over. And it's looking unlikely that I can catch number 2. He's just, as I said earlier, a much faster, better driver. He has the pace ahead of me, and I cannot catch him. Coming around the Andretti now. I kept it reasonably tight. It wasn't the best Andretti corner I've ever done there, but we're okay. I'm still having Stephen on my bumper. He's glued to me. He really is. I cannot shake him. And whatever I do, he's basically doing it slightly better, closing that distance between the two cars. And I really need to break that. I need him to either make a mistake, or I need to go round one of these corners much better than he is and put some distance. You can see here, we're coming up again. This is dangerous. This is where I overtook him. Can he get past me? No, he didn't quite get that corner as well as I did. I've put some distance between us. The drafting potential here is limited. He's not going to be able to catch me before I get to the corkscrew. In behind me on the corkscrew, he braked later than I did, but here we go, down the hill now. This is where we get a bit dangerous. I'm not so great on these corners. I really have spun off so many times. I get a little bit nervy. And on this corner, I actually slide most of the time going around there. One of my previous commentators said that I should slide my car more. Well, if you're watching the video now, that corner is where I do a lot of sliding. Okay, we're coming up now on the start-finish line. It's lap 8. It's the white flag. This is the final lap. This is do or die for me and Stephen. He has to get past me on this lap. And we are kind of catching places 1 and 2. I'm not quite sure what happened there. If 1 made a mistake and slowed down, and that caused 2 to slow down. So the gap between us has decreased, but I don't think it's decreased enough that we're going to, either me or Stephen is going to be able to catch number 2 before we reach the finish line. We're halfway through the final lap there. There just isn't enough of this race left over to make any difference. The real battle here now is between me and Stephen for 3rd place, for the podium, and he is very keen to get past me. He's right on my bumper, coming up on the quarter side from me. I'm getting car left here, but he backs off before we get to this corner. Very wise, because if he'd have tried to get through there, he probably would have hit that red cushion, and as I said, I hit that in a previous race, wiped me completely out. We're coming into the corkscrew now. I've put some distance between him. He brakes later than me to try and make that up, and does so as we come back down the hill now under the bridge. He's trying desperately to catch me, but I think I've got enough room. I think I'm just far enough ahead of him that I can get to that finish line before he can. This next corner is decisive. If I mess this one up, it's gonna be terribly, terribly tight. But I get through. I'm very careful. I'm very cautious, but I make it, and I still maintain the gap. And we're coming up on the finishing line, and I'm across ahead of Stephen by about a second. And I'm on the podium, 3rd place, to gain myself around 59 rating points, I think. I'm happy with that. I'm pleased with that race. It was very exciting. It's one of the last races of the week. I was pleased to be racing against somebody like Stephen, who knew how to race carefully, who knew how to race in a way that he didn't have to keep putting a 0x on me by bumping me. Didn't do any of those. He knew that I tended to brake earlier than him on the corkscrew, but he still didn't slam into the back of me. He was probably one of the best competitors I've had in recent times. And if you're watching this, Stephen, thank you for a brilliant race. I thought that was fantastic. And so WeatherTech, in my eyes, has redeemed itself. I've had a really good week this week. My safety rating hasn't been great. But as I said, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it shows that I'm taking more risks, that I'm exploring the boundaries of the track, that I'm trying to find ways of getting faster. I think before, where I was finishing races and I had safety rating plus every single race, that kind of showed that I wasn't taking enough risks, that I wasn't pushing myself as far as I could. And now I'm looking at things differently.
Craft!
Conclusions. At the start of this week, I mentioned in the Older Gamer Discord channel that I was doing a bit better in this second week at WeatherTech, and the response was this proved more track time equals better driving. And while I wouldn't argue with that completely, I do feel it understates the complexity of preparing for a race. Earlier in this video, I said that my falling safety rating was actually a good thing, and that it points towards my taking bigger risks in order to figure out those quicker times. And I'm starting to think that this is the reason I did better this week than last on the same course in the same car. This was, of course, all down to human intervention in the form of my coach, the eminently qualified Chad, a very experienced driver who is able to explain techniques in a down-to-earth, direct way, which I found easy to absorb and remember. And it's his advice showing me how to avoid the simple mistakes that has caused me to chase even bigger risks, bigger mistakes, in search of glory and faster lap times, while at the same time trying to race clean. I think this last part, racing clean, is often something that is ignored in sim racing in favour of a metric ton of excuses as to why a crash is always the other person's fault. But that is perhaps another topic for another video. This week, I have learned so much more about racing from talking to Chad and being guided by him round the track. However, one glaring issue for me personally is my relatively poor performance in qualification, which tends to lead me to a mid-pack place on the grid. Worse still, I find my launch on the green flag is slower than those around me, meaning I often drop from 5th place to 8th place before we've even reached the first corner. This means I get caught in the scrum of those early crashes, which can often slow me down, and by the time I get free from them, the leaders places 1 and 2 are often so far up the track that I have no chance in catching them. To try and solve this, Chad has suggested that instead of racing in week 6 of season 2, I use my practice sessions to complete time trials. This means for week 6 of season 2 2025, you won't be seeing me in any official races, and instead I will be putting in my laps using the time trial feature of iRacing on the week 7 track for the Rookies series, which is scheduled as the Roval. I've not put a lot of effort into exploring time trials, so it'll be interesting to see if a week of using it can really help with my qualification times when it comes to the actual race in 2 weeks' time. And it'll also be interesting to see if more track time really does equal better, faster driving. In the meantime, I hope you found this video helpful. And until the next one, race clean, and I'll see you on track. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. Click the little bell icon if you want to be notified of any future videos.